Tensions surrounding the Strait of Hormuz have reached a critical point as Gulf nations urge the United Nations to authorize military force to secure one of the world's most vital shipping routes, now effectively restricted by Iran in retaliation for ongoing U.S. and Israeli strikes. The appeal comes just ahead of a pivotal Security Council vote that has exposed sharp divisions among member states.
The Gulf Cooperation Council warned that Iran has tightened its grip on the strategic waterway, halting the movement of commercial vessels and oil tankers, while imposing selective passage conditions. The Council called on the international body to act decisively to safeguard maritime navigation and maintain global trade flows. Bahrain has put forward a draft resolution that would authorize the use of force to ensure safe transit through the strait, a proposal backed by the United States but contested within the 15-member council. The outcome of the vote could shape the next phase of the already volatile conflict that has begun to disrupt global energy markets and raise fears of wider economic fallout. As diplomatic efforts intensify, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has painted a stark picture of the war's escalating toll. He warned that continued fighting is driving up civilian casualties, increasing damage to infrastructure, and amplifying risks of the global economy, particularly for nations heavily dependent on energy imports. With U.S. and Israeli forces continuing their bombardment of Iran and Tehran launching attacks on neighboring Gulf nations, while threatening shipping in the strait, Guterres called on all sides to halt the violence, urging Washington and its allies to end the war and pressing Iran to cease its regional attacks. Amid the mounting crisis, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has sought to appeal directly to the American public through an open letter questioning the justification for the conflict. He argued that the war does not serve the interests of the ordinary Americans and maintained that Iran has not historically pursued aggression or expansion. The Iranian president described Tehran's recent military actions, including drone and missile strikes across the Gulf, as acts of legitimate self-defense, while attributing Iran's portrayal as a threat to the political and economic agendas of powerful nations. The extent of support for the latter within Iran's leadership remains unclear, particularly as Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei has not appeared publicly since the conflict began more than a month ago. In Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump offered a sharply contrasting assessment in his national address after the letter was posted. He characterized Iran's leadership as a dangerous regime and warned that any acquisition of nuclear weapons would pose an unacceptable global threat. Trump asserted that the conflict is approaching its conclusion, claiming that U.S. operations have largely dismantled Iran's military capabilities, including its Navy, Air Force, and missile arsenal. He said these actions would severely weaken Tehran's ability to support allied militant groups and prevent it from developing nuclear weapons. Earlier, the White House reiterated that its objectives remain focused on obliterating Iran's ballistic missile arsenal and production capabilities, annihilating its navy, severing its support for terrorist proxies, and ensuring the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism never acquires a nuclear weapon.